Welcome to the Slow Living Collective podcast. I'm Amy, wife, mother of two and homemaker. Come along with me as I share my love for simple living, growing in my allotment garden, diving into what it means to be an urban homesteader and embracing life as a mother and homemaker. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Slow Living Collective podcast. Today's episode I am so excited about. My friend Roseanne is coming on. She is from Homemade Hopes on Instagram. I'm going to leave all her links down in the notes below so you can check her out there anyway. But we are going to be talking today about natural living and I am so excited. So I'm not going to keep you any longer than necessary. Let's dive into today's episode. Joining me, and I'm really excited to dive into today's topic with you. So before we get started, and in case people don't know you, do you want to introduce yourself to everyone and who you are and what it is that you do?
Yeah, sure. So, hello, I am Roseanne, as Amy introduced me. I am 33. I still feel like I'm 23, but I need to remember I'm definitely not anymore. I currently live in rural Essex. I've lived here for 10 years, but I am shortly crossing over into the Cambridgeshire border, which I'm really excited about. I am a hairdresser by trade, actually, have been since I was about 15 and left school. And then I swiftly moved on to education and I became a lecturer in a London college where I taught for about 4 or 5 years before I left there to start my own family. And now I basically focus on home educating my children alongside working very part-time in my hair salon. And running most recently just focusing on running home ed groups and home ed meetups locally.
So yeah, and we are one of the little people that come to your home ed meetups. We have been really enjoying it. We missed the last one though because we were sick.
Yeah, no, it's so lovely. Yeah, it's really nice to obviously meet you guys and connect with you via Instagram. And now obviously, yeah, you attend the farm school, which is just so great. So I know
Yeah,
it's
and
just a nice one.
it's always so mad, isn't it? Like when you see someone in real life that you've seen on Instagram, because you're like, I think I saw like I don't know, like a meme or something once. It's like, like the people's lives inside out from Instagram, and it's like it's wild because I've never seen your feet. It's like,
Oh my god, that's so true. I always feel like if I can with someone over like socials or especially Instagram through my page, I always feel if we spoke a bit, I kind of know them well anyway by the time we meet and it just flows naturally anyway. So it's
yeah.
always so nice when you can finally put like a real face to the name and obviously meet the kids as well. It's always really nice.
Yeah, it's lovely. So like for today we're going to talk about natural living and what it means to us, and like I know it's something you're really into and it's something that I'm really into as well. And
Definitely.
yeah, I always find it like really interesting just to like connect with other people who like live a similar way, because it's not necessarily the norm. I think more people are sort of coming round to it, but it's not necessarily the norm. So when did you start to sort of migrate away from like a quote unquote normal way of living and move towards living sort of more naturally?
To be honest, it's been since my teenage years. It's just been like a slow, natural progression. It all stemmed actually with a sort of an unknown and unexplained kidney issue that I had as a child, but that went on into my teenage years, and it was just undiagnosed for so many years throughout all my teenage years and into my early 20s before I was finally diagnosed with endometriosis, which is obviously a gynae condition. And that went hand in hand with the kidney issues that I've been suffering with because I had the endo on my bladder and kidneys as well. But I was just so poorly let down by not necessarily the NHS, but by Western medicine and the prescribers that I was seeing and the consultants and the so-called professionals that in the end, by the time I had my diagnosis, I sought an alternative route and alternative therapies and alternative consultants who kind of led me where I am today over sort of, I suppose, the last 16 years. Yeah, so it really has been a journey.
That's
Definitely.
amazing. Yeah.
Mm, mm,
It's funny, isn't it? Because like I think often a lot of people come to it when they sort of feel like Western medicine isn't coming up with it. And it's funny, I had a conversation today with my mum about like, so I have problems with like my pelvis because of breastfeeding. It's just,
mhm,
just ongoing from because I'm still breastfeeding my son. And
mm,
it's like there are so many like little niggly things in my body, like my pelvis being one of them. I have like wonky liver function, and it's ultimately all down to breastfeeding. However,
yeah.
nobody seems to know anything about women's health, and
Mm,
I only know that the wonky liver function and the dodgy pelvis is just because I've sort of done the research on it, and it's like I had to go to the doctors obviously with my liver stuff, but it's like I'm like, is it because of breastfeeding? And they're like, I don't think so. And then I ended up seeing
mm,
another doctor purely by chance because I got called to discuss my results. And he was like, oh, yeah, it's probably because you're breastfeeding then. And I'm like, well, why did the other doctor not say so? And
yeah.
I mean, I suffer with health anxiety. So all I need is like the inkling of thinking that there's something else wrong. And I'm like,
Mm,
what? So, yeah, I think women's health as well is just so it's mad. I just think like, especially with breastfeeding, it's like people have been breastfeeding since the dawn of time. How do we still not know about it?
yeah, definitely. I just think sometimes the answer now with westernized medicine is just not treating the root problem and just treating the symptoms, which then lead to more illnesses or ailments and more symptoms that then we treat again with prescribed drugs or pharmaceuticals, and we're never really getting to the root cause, which ultimately is by doing that is what led to me being sort of 99.9% cured. So I suppose now when anybody discusses any illnesses or dis-ease in their body, I just automatically like strip it right back and think, I wonder what's actually causing that for you, instead of, oh, here, take XYZ and you'll feel better. Because ultimately, unless we're treating the root problem, we're never going to feel better. It's just impossible.
Yeah, it's just covering up the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just putting a plaster over something that actually is a lot deeper than a skin graze.
Yeah, it's like I was many years ago briefly on the contraceptive pill, and
Mm,
I started taking it and I was like, oh my goodness, I feel like rubbish, like really down, really depressed. And so I called the doctor, like, you know, I just don't feel good on this. And he was like, would you want me to prescribe you antidepressants? And I was like, no, I
mm,
don't want you to. Not that obviously I've been on antidepressants for my health anxiety. And so obviously
mm,
nothing wrong with taking them if you need it. But I was like, this has literally come from starting the pill. Like,
yeah,
is
yeah,
there not
yeah,
something else we can do instead of being like, well, we'll continue to take the pill and now you've got to take antidepressants on top to deal with the side effects of the pill?
yeah.
And in the end, I was like, I'm not having it, and just was like, we'll give up on that and do something else. So,
Yeah, it's like you said, it's just that it's one thing after another. I was the same as you. I mean, it started off with like painkillers, then it was like prophylactic antibiotics for this kidney problem that didn't need antibiotics. It was inflammation and not infection. So then to fight the antibiotics, it was like constant, like uh, oh, it was just one medication after the other, sleeping tablets, antidepressants, muscle relaxants. And in the end, I mean, when do you stop? When do you actually listen to your body and the fact that nothing's working because you're not actually getting to the root problem?
yeah,
And there's obviously a place for pharma, there's a place for pharma medicine 100%, but a lot of the time it's just so abused now that the body can't actually do what it's made to do, which ultimately is to show you the signs that you can then heal from in most ways, in a very natural way. But there's just not the education out there. There's just not that sort of health education. It's just not found in any of our mainstream education to know that there's other alternative therapies. So unless sadly you've been let down like you have and I have, and most people that I meet who seek this way of lifestyle have been, people just don't know that there is another choice out there, which is actually just so sad.
Yeah, and like you say, there's a place for, pharmaceuticals where it's necessary, but I think as well, like, I think sometimes we just don't trust our bodies to know what
Mm,
they need. And sometimes it's really simple, like when we were unwell, when we had COVID, I just honestly really craved like fresh fruit. And
yeah,
so much
yeah.
so I was like, well, I can't go out anywhere. So like Amazon Fresh, you need to bring me the best fruit you've
Mhm.
got. Because it's like my body was like literally craving it because it wanted to feel, but what was this, for me it was thankfully very mild and just a cold. And
Mm.
it was like, that's what my body wanted. It wanted, fresh fruit, and like I was literally obsessed with it. And
Yeah, and I think it goes hand in hand. Like obviously a healthy body, healthy mind. So our bodies will crave what our mind and our emotional state needs and desires as well. So yeah, completely. When we're unwell, we do need to listen to our body and what it needs, whether that's like you said, fruit and veg and eating healthily, or sleeping and resting and sunlight and anything that we really need to heal in the way that we're supposed to heal.
yeah, and there's, a lot of these things as well that we can do, like you said, sunlight, just being able to sort of like get out there and just absorb some vitamin D, is
Absolutely. Yeah.
incredible, and incredible for our immunity as well. I remember
Mm.
like, during lockdowns and things being like, do you know what? We'd all be so much more healthier if we could actually leave our houses,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, 100%. I think a lot of people would be so shocked if they just had a most basic blood test to find out how deficient they were in vitamin D. I think it is
I
a
know.
root cause of a lot of illnesses as well.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
when I was having some blood tests around like this liver function wonkiness last year, I had to have my vitamin D checked. And I mean, I know that I spend a lot of time outside, and I'm lucky with the like our lifestyle that I do that, like being at the allotment and just being out with the kids. But, for a lot of people, being at home and being behind a desk, like my husband, for example, he tries to, because he works at home, just get out and just get some sunlight on his head, because otherwise he just, I know, he's like a mushroom inside in the dark.
Oh, no, it's so true. It's so true. This is the problem with, the this unhealthy environment, this unhealthy social environment that we've all become accustomed to now. It's just so normal for, from children upwards, and then as we, evolve into adults as well, to just be to accept being inside and to be accept being in a heated or an air-conned environment that's just, yeah, not actually feeding our souls, our mind, or our bodies at all. Not
Yeah,
at all.
it's the same, like, when you've got a cold and stuff, like actually I always find being outside is just so much nicer. Like you can breathe better, the fresh air just helps, if you've got like sun
Definitely, yeah.
stuff. And it's like simple things that maybe we just don't always think about, that actually can just sort of, help heal our bodies, like fresh air, sunshine, fruit and
Yeah,
vegetables, herbs, like
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Anything as natural as possible, nature and anything that we can access that's naturally derived is just, it's always going to be a positive for our bodies. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
And I think, as well, just being outside, it just, it makes you feel better mentally as well. When I was like struggling with some health anxiety last year, I just went off to the allotment for a few hours by myself. And when I came back, like Ray was like, wow. And I'm like, what? And he's like, you were so much different from when you left here. And I'm like, I've had my hands in
Mm.
the dirt.
Mm. No, it's so true. I think it's so essential for like our emotional and mental health. Obviously, our physical health, it goes without saying, but I just don't think people understand the importance of being outside and feeling at one, and just get, like you said, just getting fresh air and being able to think without, being at home, and reminders of what needs doing and work and chores and daily life, and feeling fed up with anything and everything that goes on in our mind. It's just so essential to get out. It's just, you know, it's so amazing for stress management. And yeah, it's so underrated. So underrated. Everybody needs to get outside every day,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, even just a walk, just a small walk,
Yeah,
it just makes you feel so much better.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, just uh, simple and actually really cheap ways of just maintaining your health. It doesn't have to be anything fancy.
Oh, absolutely, definitely. I mean, yesterday we were out for about 6, 7 hours on a wild garlic expedition. But again, it didn't cost a penny. I mean, we did stop in the pub for dinner after, but you know, that was we'll keep that quiet. But yeah, no, being out, and it didn't cost a penny, and everybody felt so amazing. It was the first dry day that we've had in, let's be honest, weeks.
I know.
And it was just like a little taster of spring, and it was just glorious. And you know, it didn't cost a penny. You don't have to spend a fortune to just be outside and to feel better. I mean, they're lovely when you have days like that out, and yeah, everybody loves it, but you don't have to. You really don't. You know, you can feel better about yourself for free, essentially, in just what surrounds us. Yeah, you really can.
That's excellent. So I wanted to talk to you as well about like lots of different parts of natural living, but I wanted to talk about food. And so what made you start looking into like the food that we eat? What changes did you make, and sort of where are you at now in terms of like food and health?
Yeah, I suppose I always had a good start. My mum's very health conscious, and she's always ensured that we have always sort of thought about what we're eating and putting into our bodies. So I had a good start there. But I suppose again, when I had my diagnosis of endometriosis alongside this kidney issue and this interstitial cystitis, which was my bladder condition, I started going down the alternative route. One of the first things I researched actually was and came across was an alkaline diet. And I followed that for quite a few years, very strict, and it really eliminated so many of the symptoms that I was getting just by cutting out a variety of different foods. In this alkaline diet, it included like nightshades, fatty foods, processed foods, sugars, and I really noticed a difference. And then once things calmed down a few years later, I managed to reintroduce some of those things in moderation, without it causing too much of a problem. But then I moved on to like researching the benefits of eating organic food, free range, locally local produce, and it kind of just has gone on from there. And obviously once you have your own kids, that sense of wanting to do the best you can and feed them the best you can is heightened. And I suppose it's just been a progressive journey over the last sort of, well, again, 15, 16 years, but especially since my kids have obviously we're on the weaning process. I mean, they're nearly 8 and 6 now, so it's been a long time. And yeah, I've just spent a lot of time researching food and the importance of us eating, basically fueling our body with what we need to thrive. And yeah, it's just, again, it's just so important. But I think one of the biggest things I focus on, especially with my kids, I don't want them to have any food anxiety, and I do try and do everything in moderation, but ensuring that their main meals and the you know the lump of what they're eating every day is going to be fueling their body with goodness and everything they need to keep as healthy as possible, really.
Yeah, I get that with, with our children as well. They're a bit younger than yours, but just trying to sort of encourage, my daughter, she's 4, and then my son, he's almost 2. And so, at stage where they can potentially be a little bit fussy with their food, and just trying to sort of share with them, like, we don't have any like you've got to eat that before you have that. It's just very sort of free flowing, but just more getting them to sort of understand, like, protein is really important. That's the protein part of your dinner. That's quite important, to help you, and this is what this does, and this is why we eat this, and just sort of encourage them. And remember that fussiness doesn't last forever. And
Yeah, no,
we just sort of
absolutely. Yeah.
go in like ebbs and flows with them as well. And yeah, just sort of, like you say, don't want them to have any sort of like hang ups over like food and anxiety around it, or diet culture or anything like that, and just try and sort of raise them so they know that these are the parts of the meal that are, you know, important for whatever reason.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I completely agree about not doing anything in a like in a set way when it comes to eating. I just tend to put, my son loves, he eats 2 eggs every day. He's obsessive. He's egg obsessed, but also he might have like a bite of his egg, and then he'll have a bite of banana or some strawberries. And I kind of just leave it all on the table, and they sort of graze throughout the morning. They might eat some of their breakfast, and then we'll do a little bit of work, or we'll do some reading, or whatever we might be doing that day. And it's, I think, because they're never rushed to eat, they kind of enjoy their food. Whereas if I was rushing them, they potentially might not, they might skip that banana or skip the fruit because they're in a rush and they just want to have their toast, or they want to have their pita bread, or whatever they want to have. But I think just because it's there and they know they can eat it in, like you said, in no set routine. And I think that's really important, because sometimes, I don't particularly want something savory at lunch. I want something sweeter, or, I just don't think there needs to be any like set menu really for each meal. And as long as they're getting, like you said, they're getting their protein, they're getting everything they need, then I don't mind which order they eat it, to be
Yeah,
honest. I really,
it's all going to the same place, isn't it?
exactly. And as long as we're fueling them with the goodness, it doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what in what
I think
in what order they eat it.
I think as well it can be like a little bit of an adult thing. Like I wouldn't eat chicken and then eat banana straight next to it.
Mm, mm.
That's
Yeah,
just like an adult thing. Like kids
yeah,
don't care about that. They're like, I'll have a strawberry, then I'll have a Brussels sprout. I mean, my kids won't touch Brussels
exactly.
sprout, but
Yeah,
they just eat whatever. They don't care. So
yeah.
yeah, it's just
Definitely, just to get rid of that stigma surrounding, like you said, like this diet culture. And I just think as long as there's a healthy relationship with healthy food, then that's fine. Obviously allergies are so heightened right now. Luckily my kids don't actually have any allergies yet, but I think there's so many kids I know that have, and I've got allergies myself, and there's so many kids I know that have that. It hinders what they can and can't eat. And I just think, God, there's so much stress and anxiety surrounding food lately, and it's just really important to try and just like ensure that our kids are just aware of what they should eat, and that treats are okay every now and then. And just have a healthy attitude around food, I think, is so important going into like teenage years and adulthood especially.
yeah, definitely. So I suppose connected to all of that is about sourcing food or growing your own. Do you grow your own food, or do you source it locally, or a bit of both?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, a bit of both, to be honest. We have, over the last sort of 7 years, I've definitely tried to be as like self-sustainable as possible. We grow a lot. I'm limited where I live at the minute because I have to pot grow everything. And I think from your balcony growing how difficult sometimes
Yeah.
that can be. But we've managed, like we have been thriving. Some years have been better than others, purely down to just like weather conditions. But one of the most things I'm looking forward to about moving is just having a bigger garden, having more options for growing our own. But yeah, we've always done it. Every year we sort of increase in knowledge and increase in our like variety of what we grow, which is amazing. Like my kids are so into it. We sowed some seeds last week, and they know what to do now, and they just do it, and they enjoy watching them sprout, and they enjoy watching the seedlings. And they really take interest in, they feel proud when it comes to harvesting that food, knowing that they've grown that themselves. And I think, but I never had that as a child, and I think that is just so important to like instill that into our kids from a young age.
Yeah.
And I know obviously you've got your allotment and you do the same, and I just think it's just so lovely for our kids to, all the things that we've had to learn as adults surrounding that, if they can grow up and they've already got this strong awareness of it and they kind of know what to do, how amazing.
Yeah, and hopefully, they're already there with it, they'll, it'll just be sort of a natural part of their life, sort of growing and stuff. So, I hope the same for mine. We did planting some seeds recently, but because the weather's been so terrible, and I'm about to put the greenhouse up at the allotment if it ever stops raining for long enough for me to actually do it. So I haven't put anything outside yet. Like I usually have like the little outside greenhouse on my balcony, but I wasn't going to put it up this year. And so it's just been like in my bathroom. My son,
Yeah.
he is like there and he's like dig, and I think this year he's going to be like trying to dig up all of my stuff at the allotment.
He's going to be so involved, and again, it's so
Yeah.
lovely when they're that age to not like to start getting into it. Yeah, I think it's really special. I've been the same. I've not put anything outside. All mine are in the downstairs toilet, thriving right now in the warmth. So I don't know. I've never done that sooner, but yeah, this weather's definitely held us back. Let's
I
hope
know.
we get a good summer and we can harvest a lot.
Yes. And I know there are people that haven't even started like doing seeds yet as well, and like they'll catch up. They always catch
Oh
up.
yeah, definitely. The thing is, if they hang fire and then they just plant, they're just sowing straight outside when the weather gets better. That it swings and roundabouts. They all meet in the middle at the end of it,
Yeah.
don't they?
Yeah, at my house we have them like sitting in the bath and everything. So you want to have a bath in my house, you have to remove a significant amount of plants before you have a bath. Everybody in
That's
it,
so true.
yeah, everyone in here stinks because they can't be bothered to do this stuff out the bath.
They're like, nah, plants are more important.
Yeah, we've got a nice skylight in our bathroom, so it's nice light. All the plants love
Perfect.
it in there.
Who needs a bathroom anyway? Let's just have an eco shower. Wait for it. We've had enough rain. We should
Yeah,
have enough in the water butts to sustain a shower for a few days.
yeah. Right. So sorry, just knocked something. Right.
Oh, I didn't answer your locally sourced bit either, actually, if you wanted me to.
Oh go ahead.
Yeah, I think locally sourced as well. Yeah, I think it's really important to know like how many miles your food is traveling from farm to plate or field to plate or wherever it's coming from. So yeah, I really do try and source a lot of my food locally. Obviously, the local farm Appleby, where we run the farm school, I try and utilize that as much as possible. They use locally reared meat, and there's another local farm that I get our raw milk from, and they do local honey in there as well. So I really do try to source as much as our food locally as realistically possible. We forage a lot as well, so I try and do that as local as possible. And yeah, I just think it's really important. The less I can buy in the supermarkets, the better. I mean, we have to be realistic, but yeah, the less the better, definitely.
Yeah, that's how we work as well. And we're trying to sort of, same as you really, utilising like the local farms as much as we possibly can. And we've recently done some ordering. We ordered from like the Ethical Butcher. They do like meat from regenerative.
Regenerative,
That's
yeah.
not easy to say. Regenerative farms, and yeah, so just try and try and do our best where we can. But like you say, try and not use a supermarket, but logically it's not possible
Yes,
not to get
no, some things it's just not possible. And I'm all for supporting small businesses, and I do believe you pay for what you get in terms of meat and fresh vegetables and organic and everything else. But when it comes to like household essentials and just a day-to-day basis, sometimes there's certain things you need to pop to Lidl for. You just need to.
Yeah, absolutely. We're the same. I just finished doing my shopping order, and it's like I often think like, I think there's like sometimes a bit of a barrier when people shop locally. They feel like, it can be a little bit more expensive, but like you say, it's worthwhile if you're able to do it. Because you do get what you pay for. And, a lot of the farms and stuff around here, like we're the same, milk and meat and fresh produce where we can and stuff. We try and do our best, but
Definitely. I think also since COVID, people should be more aware of supporting their local businesses and shopping local, and, not lining the pockets of these huge companies who I think it's been proven just there's no care for us small people there. So we definitely have to support our local, if people want to visit farm shops, they want to visit the local amenities, we have to support them, because it just won't be possible otherwise. So even if you're just popping in for a dozen eggs and a loaf of bread, if everybody did that, it would be enough to keep a small shop going, or a small farm shop. So yeah, it's definitely really important to shop local.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, going to the supermarket these days, for one example, there is never any eggs, but there
Mm.
are always eggs at the farm shop. So
I haven't bought eggs from a supermarket in, I can't tell you how many years, and actually we've just hatched chicks. So finally, once
I
we
did
move,
see how exciting.
our dream of ticking that self-sustainable box off will be complete. But
Gonna be
yeah,
knocking on your door for
everybody,
eggs.
yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, the more the merrier. Yeah, you'll be welcome to them. Ellis has 2 to 4 a day, so you'll have to fight him for them. But yeah, I know everybody's been saying about this lack of eggs in the supermarket, and I just think, oh, I haven't bought like caged hen eggs in,
Yeah,
honestly, I can't tell you how many years. So, in fact, if I couldn't get a free range organic eggs, I just
yeah,
actually wouldn't eat. To be honest with you, I just wouldn't
yeah,
eat them. I
absolutely.
think it's actually doing people a favour, because it's not good anyway to be supporting caged hens. So I'm glad they can't be getting them.
Yeah, I mean, I was just in the supermarket the other day getting something else and just walked past like the eggs, and
Yeah, the empty shells.
it's a couple of times I've walked past the egg, because we always get our eggs from the farm.
Mm.
But yeah, just walking past, I was just like, there are no eggs on these shelves, just a handful. And like, I know the eggs at the moment, because the chickens have to be kept in.
Yeah, flock down.
Yeah, so I know they're all labelled, even the free range stuff
Mm.
I think is labelled barn eggs at the moment as
Mm.
well. So yeah, it's just difficult. But yeah, there's plenty of eggs at the farm shop every time I go.
Yeah, yeah, I know you do have to question that sometimes, don't you?
Yeah. We did touch on it, but I wanted to sort of come back around to, we were talking about like cleaning products and stuff when we were talking about
Mhm.
stuff we get from the supermarket. Do you clean with chemicals, or is it something that you try and move away from? Have you found like more
It's
natural ways of cleaning?
Yeah, it's definitely something I've moved away from. I mean, there's still a lot of things I think I could improve on. Sometimes I'm washing up and I think, oh, should I have bought this? Washing up liquid from Lidl's. But there's a lot of things that I have changed over the years. Again, especially since having kids, realizing how many products contain carcinogenics is absolutely astonishing. Like, especially like home plugins and room sprays, like the toxicity level is ridiculous. So
Oh,
I've
it's
definitely moved away from products like that. I love a scent as well, me, but I definitely now use like only organic, mainly like essential oil based natural scents. The same with beauty products as well. And I'm a Tropic ambassador, so since working for them a couple of years and trying some of their different products that I wouldn't have used before, like hand wash, and I've really noticed a difference. And I've really noticed how some products I just didn't even look at the ingredients of.
I
And
know.
it's pretty crazy, the chemicals that are in things that you would not even assume, especially like children's products on the market.
I
You would
know.
assume, because some of the well-known brands, rave about being so health conscious and brilliant for this and this and dry skin and la la la, you'd assume that they are mainly natural based, but they're not. And it's actually really shocking when you read the ingredients
I
on a
know, and
lot of
you hear.
household products.
Yeah, it will say things like, this is that natural skincare or for kids or whatever. And when you look into it, it's like got 15 ingredients and you're like,
Yeah,
I can't pronounce any of them. That doesn't
no,
sound very natural to me.
I
So
know it is crazy. Like, the toxicity level in so many products is, yeah, it's unreal, especially, like I said, especially the children ones. Maybe I've noticed that more because I pick them up more and have a look, but I don't tend to buy anything like off the shelves in supermarkets or mainstream stores anymore, because you just can't find anything that actually claims to be natural and is natural.
one of the things that we definitely do is like we've tried to move away from things where we can. And I think it's just like a process. There are some things that I still use. Like one thing that I have had on my agenda, I'm like, I'm gonna make my own dishwasher tablets. And I think I said
Oh yeah,
a year ago, and I've just ordered some more dishwasher tablets because I haven't quite got round to it. So you know, we've changed, like we have changed our washing up liquid and like hand soap. Like I generally try and make it wherever I can. And then, you know, there are some things that, you know, I still do. Dishwasher tablets are still dishwasher tablets in my house
Yeah,
at the moment.
same.
You know, I make my own cleaning sprays and that works quite well. But yeah, it's just a balance.
There is so many easy swaps that once you've done them, you'd like, you know, like a natural descaler, for example. Once you've done it, you don't think twice. And like you said, with it's so easy to make your own cleaning sprays. You don't need products filled with chemicals. I think more companies are coming around to the fact that people, you know, they want a less toxic environment in their home now. And there are more products, but sometimes ultimately the cost difference between the products is so vast that it makes it like it's just unaffordable for so
It
many
is.
people. The same as food produce. You know, the difference between buying an organic cucumber and a non-organic cucumber is ridiculous if you're buying, like me, like 10 a week
Yeah.
without. And you know, it's a shame that what we should be doing and what was always done previous, which was just organic food, there was no other choice. And now, because we're choosing that we don't want our food covered in pesticides, we have to pay the price. And it is the same with trying to live a natural way in most circumstances and most choices that we have to make. There it does come at a cost, sadly.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I've said that as well before. I think we all, because of the extra cost, it almost, you know, it completely excludes like groups of people who just cannot afford it. And therefore it's like, you know, being healthy is not something that should only happen if you have money. And it's like I've said before, about completely off subject, but about breastfeeding. To be able to breastfeed successfully, for me, I had to pay for a lactation consultant privately. It shouldn't
Mm,
be that you have a certain level of wealth to be able to access some of these fundamental things for
yeah.
our health and the health of our children as well. And so,
No, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Completely.
just, I don't know, it just excludes very large groups of people. And, you know, like the cost of food anyway is astronomical. And it's just, you know, to then be purchasing organic on top, it takes much more of a commitment. And like we've found as well that, you know, when we ordered from the ethical butcher, that comes at a much higher cost than if we were purchasing from the supermarket. And the same, you know, with the farm and everything. And it's just inaccessible to many people. And yeah, it just gets my goat a little bit because it's like, well, you know, these things are like fundamentals for our survival, you know, food,
Mm.
and it's inaccessible for some people to even attempt to eat a healthy diet.
Yeah, yeah, 100%, absolutely agree. I've had so many conversations with people over the years about, you know, so many different topics, but mainly about diseases or chronic illnesses. And, you know, I'll say, oh, have you tried XYZ, whether that would be you know, like seeing a homeopath, seeing a naturopath, buying, you know, alternative medicine instead of just paying. I couldn't actually tell you what a prescription is now, but I think it's around £10 mark for an NHS prescription. But, you know, I might suggest something um, and a name of a product to try, and it may be £30, for example, and people just that, you know, they either can't afford it, which is obviously understandable, or they just don't have the faith to try a different route. And it's such a shame that it is down to the cost. You know, if most people that I speak to that have some sort of disease or illness or ailment, and I say, you know, oh gosh, you would so benefit from seeing a homeopath, you really would. And it doesn't, the idea doesn't even stick in their mind for longer than 3 seconds, because they know that that will come at a cost. But then at what point does our health become the point that we should be focusing on? At what point do we say, okay, enough's enough now, and if I don't take my health back into my own hands and take a different route, who will at the end of the day. We're just a number when it comes to you know, to the NHS or to you know, calling up the GP. And people will say to me that they've spent like 2 hours trying to get through to the GP. And think like, wow, does that not make you question, maybe I should, you know, it's not just about going private, but maybe you should seek some sort of alternative natural option. There's so many different routes out there, but yeah, it's so hard. I think unfortunately sometimes it takes, you know, something really serious or you know, something dramatic to happen to make you realize that you need to start looking. And then once you do, it's just a rabbit hole you'll never come back out of. There's no going back, mainly because we feel so much better. You know, people don't go down this natural way of living and think, oh, I feel absolutely awful. I can't wait to go back to taking farmers, and I can't wait to use chemicals in my home and, you know, feed my children full of sugar and E numbers. It just doesn't happen, which is why it's just always a slow progressive journey for everybody. And by the time you speak to them, if they've been doing this way of living for, like us, like over 10-15 years, there's no going back. There's no going back. So it's just a shame it takes some people so long to start making those small changes.
Yeah, and I think as well, you know, I think because our society is so sort of conditioned in its sort of format that, you know, people like me and you even talking about this, people will be like, I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah, some people will skip past this because I think a lot of people, they want to make that change, but they don't know where to start. And that's where some people, you know, I've done posts on it on my own social media, and the questions I get the most is, what shall I start with? How can I start? I just feel so overwhelmed, so unwell, or I'm on so many medications. Which one do I switch out first? And it's, yeah, I think it's sometimes they'd rather just pretend that there isn't any other option because it's just the easy option, but ultimately it's not the easy option, and it's not the best option for your health at all.
Yeah, and like you said, you know, at what point do we start like prioritizing our health? Because you know, once if we don't have our health, then we don't really have much else, you know.
No, it's
it,
cheesy, but our health is our wealth at the
it
end of the day.
is.
And once you become a mother or a parent, or you have children around you that are your priority, you know, their health is your wealth. And then that's a whole nother dimension when you have more people's health to think about as well. You know, that's just, yeah, that if that doesn't make you want to change, then nothing will really, will it?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Mm.
are there any other sort of ways you would say you embrace a more natural lifestyle for your family?
I definitely think our choice to home educate goes hand in hand with living a more natural way of life. I think just the fact that, you know, without going too much into the education side of it, I think even just the fact that my children can listen to their body and what their bodies need when it comes to, you know, sleeping and eating and resting and their emotions and their basic toilet needs even. I don't think I'd be able to send them to school and not successfully live this way of life. I'm sure there's certain things that I would be able to do successfully, but I just don't think it wouldn't go as smooth and flow as well as it does now. So I definitely think the choice of home educate has been the right one for us. I think moving to a more rural area will definitely be a pro moving forward for us in this sort of natural way of living, just becoming even more self-sustainable with our food and the chickens and the land. It's definitely something we've waited like 10 years to do. And just alongside that, I mean, I'm doing a homeopathy course at the minute, so that's been like a real eye-opener. I thought I knew a lot about it anyway, but this has definitely opened my eyes more. And just, I think also having like a very mindful way of living. I'm quite spiritual, and you know, I meditate daily. I think all these different steps, just it's like underneath the umbrella of a natural living, and it just works well. All those points just work really well for us, definitely.
Oh, that sounds wonderful, and I agree. All of those things, like, you know, pretty much so much of what you were saying, I was like, yeah, I do that, or I want to do that. Like, you know, it's
Mm.
our goal when we're able to be able to move, you know, and, you know, have a bit more land around us. And, you know, we've just got to, we're just in the waiting phase of that at the moment. And so, yeah, it'd be really exciting to like, follow you as you sort of, as your life changes a little bit in that respect. So that'll be fun.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now the chickens as well.
I know, you'll have to come up. I just think we've been in that waiting game, so like I totally understand where you're coming from. And at lockdown, I just feel like the whole COVID situation was just putting us further and further back financially, and you know, with our businesses and everything. Just moving now has become, it's so stressful now to be a homeowner or to try and move. They've made it so difficult. I mean, the rates again have just jumped up, but
Yeah.
ultimately, you know, you will, the same as we have, make sacrifices to get where you want to be, whether that takes a year, 2 years, 5 years, or like us, 10 years. So yeah, when the time's right and it's meant to be, it definitely will.
Yeah, and I think you, like you said something really important, like, you know, like we do in our life, we make sacrifices. I often think that around home education and stuff. And I know me and you are going to come back together and do an episode about home education, but I think as well, like something I get questioned a lot on is like when it comes to home education, which I agree with you, it is sort of part of our natural slow lifestyle. And I think that's, you know, it just all goes hand in hand. But something I people question a lot is like, oh, like how could you do, like how could you do it? And I'm like, well, you know, it's just we make sacrifices to do it. We make sacrifices in terms of, you know, we're not a two-income family, and we make sacrifices around that because we're not a two-income family. We only have one car. We only really need one car, but you know, we make the sacrifices where we need to and what works for us, so that we can live the kind of life that we want to live, rather than, you know, we could just all go out to work and drive two cars and the kids could go to school, but that's not the setup we want for ourselves.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's just
absolutely.
all about sacrifice and what works for each individual family, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I think I get that asked that question on a weekly basis, like, oh, how could you, whether it be surrounding home education or the way we spend our days, or the way, you know, even down to the food we eat or where we shop or anything. Like, I'm just, the question I get all the time is, oh, how could you? And my reply is always, well, how could you not? You know,
Yes.
I could, and that is my reply to everything, because I just couldn't imagine doing life the opposite way to how I'm doing it. It would just be so untrue to who I am as a person, who we are as a family. I don't think I'll be doing right by my kids. So yeah, I suppose the question, when we're faced it, I just reflect that right back, and I just always think, how could you not? But again, ultimately, everybody's different, and I think by taking small steps, eventually they become these like big ginormous steps, and then you get to where like you and I are today. Yeah, and hopefully some people will listen to this and think, oh, I'm going to make a small change, or I'd like to try that, because even just trying it is just such a big step forward.
Yeah, and those small little changes, like you say, they add up, and then eventually you look back and you're like, I do things really differently now. And you know, at the time it seems like, oh, I'm just gonna make my own antibacterial cleaning spray, and
Mm.
it seems so minor and it doesn't have any sort of ripple effect on anything else. But you know, when you look back and then you realize like, oh, actually we've achieved quite a lot in these years that we've been living this way, and we actually are much more intentional with the way we do things.
Yeah, absolutely. And no decision has to be permanent. And I think that's what's got me through the last 19 years of my life. It's just been, nothing has to be permanent. You know, I can come off these prophylactic antibiotics, and if I don't feel better, I can go back on them. And then, you know, the next step with, you know, our home life and how we work in our home, and then with our children, and then our children's education. And I think the knowledge that nothing has to be permanent, and we can make changes at any time that we want to do, you know, and be in control of our life, is so important to remember now.
No, exactly, like I'm just like, yes. It's yeah, exactly. You know, that's it. That's how we feel about things. And yeah, it's honestly been so good to talk to you, and I know
Yeah.
we could probably talk all night.
Oh, I know. I love it. Do you know what? I love talking about topics that like when, especially, I love talking when people don't know about it, and you can kind of like not influence them, but you can kind of like open their eyes, and they're like, oh, I never knew that. Or, you know, I've had people say to me, oh, I didn't know I could like legally homeschool my kids. And I'm like, wow, where have you been living? But the same goes for like any natural way of living. And I'm still learning. Like, I've seen things on your posts, I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I never would have thought that, or that's brilliant. And every day I'm learning something new. So it's just so nice when you can chat to people, and they get it, and you sort of like, you know, you just, yeah, it's so good. I love it. I can't wait to talk about obviously the home ed one as well. We're going to have so much to talk about on that. That's going to be brilliant.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And can you like tell the listeners of the podcast where they can connect with you online, where they can find you, all of that good stuff?
Yeah, of course. I'm quite basic, really. I am on Instagram. I connect with everybody via that, and my Insta handle is Home Ed Hopes.
Excellent. I will also put the link in the notes to this as well. So
Amazing.
thank you so much for coming on, and we will speak in the future about
Yeah,
and I will see you at farm school.
amazing. If I don't see you just before, I'll see you there. Yeah, thanks, Amy. It's been a pleasure.
Oh my goodness, guys, I just had the best time recording that episode with Roseanne. It was so much fun, so insightful, and yeah, it's just great to chat to people who are, you know, living a very similar way to you, or have, you know, very similar thoughts and beliefs, and just do life in a similar way. It's really, really nice to get into these subjects together. So I hope you enjoyed it. I had a great time. I hope you enjoyed listening to it. Like I said, I am going to put all of the information in the notes, so you can go over to Instagram and follow Roseanne there. She is Home Ed Hopes, but like I said, the link will be below, so you can just click through and follow her. Definitely check her out. Her account is amazing, and she shares lots about her life, how she lives her daily life, natural living, and yeah, just go and follow her. That is my tip of the day. And as always, you can find me on Instagram. I'm there at lifeonplot44. You can find me on the blog, theslowlivingcollective.com. So until next time, guys, thank you so much for listening to today's episode, and like I said, I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I did. So until next time, guys, I will catch you in the next episode.